Nancy with Creative Cutz. Thanks for joining me. I've just added this cute Western themed step card to the 99-cent store, so I thought it would be kind of fun to show you a couple of the techniques that I used on the card. So in this video I'm going to show you how to make the barbed wire fence. I'm going to show you how to do the texturing and the aging on the wooden slats that are on the side of the cabin, and then I'm also going to show you how to make the shingles for the roof. So let's get started. So first I'm going to show you how to make the barbed wire fence. So to make it, you'll need a couple of things. You'll need some fairly fine gauge wire. This is, I think, about 26 gauge, and this is just regular jewelry making wire. You're going to need some pliers to hold the wire with, and then you're also going to need something to snip the wire with. So I'm just using my jewelry making tools because I found those to work very well. So you're going to start by figuring out how long the length of wire is that you're going to need for your fence. So what I would suggest is measure how long your fence is going to be, and then if you roughly double it, that's going to give you lots of space. So I'm just going to be making a short length here, so I'm going to snip a few inches off. And for each strand of barbed wire, you're going to need 2 lengths of wire. So I'm going to measure out 2 lengths the same, and then set the wire aside. Now the first step to making this is just to twist the 2 lengths of wire together, because basically what barbed wire is 2 pieces of wire twisted together and then the little barbs wrapped around it. So I'm going to start off just by doing a couple twists with my fingers just to get it going. And sometimes that's a little bit trickier than it sounds. There we go. So we've got that started. Now to carry on, I'm going to hold that end with my little pliers here. So I'm just going to get a good grip, and then all you need to do is just start twisting. And you just twist the wire over itself. You want to keep your twists nice and even all the way down. And then I find every now and then it's helpful just to move the pliers a little bit closer to where I'm actually twisting. And you want to make sure that you're holding it fairly snugly so that the wire isn't twisting inside the pliers. And you're just going to twist that all the way down. And once you get your rhythm going, it actually doesn't take too long to do. It goes fairly quickly. So I'm not actually going to twist the whole thing together because I'm just showing you how this is done. So now you've got your length of what's the start of your barbed wire fence with these 2 twisted pieces. Now what you want to do is create your little barbs. So you're going to need to cut another little length of wire. And this one, if you have about 1 inch or so, that's usually good. You just need enough that you can grab onto as you're twisting it around. So I'm going to cut off a little length. Now at this point I'm going to bring in my flat nose pliers. And what I'm going to do is just cross one end of the wire that I just cut over top of the twisted wire. And then I'm going to hold both of them with my flat nose pliers. Whoops. And you need to hold it fairly close to the end because you want to be able to maneuver right in tight there. There we go. So I've got a good grip on it. Now what I'm going to do is take this other end, and I'm just going to give it a couple twists, nice tight twists around the twisted wire. And you can give it 2 or 3 twists just depending on what you want to do, but usually a couple twists is good. And then the last thing that you need to do is just snip off these ends and leave just a little bit sticking up. So you'll want to leave maybe about 1/8 of an inch sticking up. You want the barbs to show, but you don't want them to be too big because this is a fairly small fence. So I'm going to snip those 2 ends off. So there I have one little barb. It might be a little bit difficult to see on the camera, but there's one little barb on the fence there. And then what you'll want to do is just keep repeating that all the way down the length of your twisted wire. Once you've got all of the barbs on your wire, then you can take this and just wrap it once around each fence post and just spread out the fence posts so that they're nice and evenly spaced. And then you're going to repeat that a second time so that you have 2 lengths of barbed wire on your fence, and then glue your fence onto the card. Next, I'm going to show you how to do the textured wooden slats that are on the side of the cabin. So you need to choose what color you want to make your cabin out of, and then in addition to the piece that's included in the pattern, you'll want to cut some strips, and these are about 3/8 of an inch wide, and just cut them a little bit wider than the actual cabin itself. Now, the first thing that I'm going to do is texture these, and to do that I use the Tim Holtz Alterations folder, and this is one that has kind of a wooden look to it. There's kind of a knot in the middle there and some wood texturing, so that works really well. And I've got a piece here that I've already gone ahead and textured. So just run that through your Sizzix machine or your Texture Boutique or whatever you use for your embossing folders. And then we're going to add a little bit of distressing to it just to make it look a little bit more weather worn. So I'm going to start by using some frayed burlap distress ink, and this is also by Tim Holtz. So I'm just going to get a little bit onto my applicator here and just kind of lightly rub it on, and you'll see that what happens is the ink kind of sticks to the raised parts of the paper. So now you're getting a little bit of definition in the color there. You can actually see that texturing come right out. And you can add as much or as little ink as you want to use. Now, the paper that I've used is Coordinations, and for those of you that aren't familiar with it, Coordinations paper actually has a white core. So when you sand it, that white core comes through. So I'm going to use a sanding block and just lightly here and there do a little bit of sanding, and again it's that raised part of the texture that's going to be affected. So now you can start to see that my wooden strips are starting to look quite weather worn, and that's really the look that I want. So once I've got all of the strips textured and inked the way that I would like them, then just go ahead and glue it onto your cabin, and you'll need to just cut out that little window hole that's on the cabin. But that'll give your cabin a nice authentic wooden look. Now, the last thing that I'm going to show you is how to do the shingles on the roof. So again, you're going to cut out the roof piece that's with the pattern, but in addition to that, you're going to cut a bunch of little rectangles of paper, and you can kind of judge the size that you want your shingles to be. But I've cut this about 1/2 an inch wide by about 3/4 of an inch. That's the size that I've gone with. So I'm going to start off, this is just flat paper, it's not textured in any way, and I'm going to start off just by really wrinkling and crinkling and crumpling it just between my fingers. So I just want to give it a really good crumple to get lots of little creases and folds in there. And then just kind of flatten it out again, give it a couple more crumples if you're not happy with how it looks. And then I'm going to use some more Tim Holtz Distress ink, and this is the Black Soot ink. So again, I'm going to get some on my applicator and just kind of lightly rub it onto the paper. Now I'm using a darker gray, so when I put the black on, it just gives it a nice kind of sooty textured look. And that's all there is to texturing the shingles. It's very quick and easy, and then once you have enough shingles textured to cover your roof, start from the bottom of the roof, glue on your first layer of shingles, and then when you glue on the next layer, just overlap them slightly, because that's how shingles are actually done, and that'll give it a nice, authentic look. Well, I hope you enjoyed that, and hopefully you learned a couple new tricks as well. And if you'd like to make one of the Western Step cards, you can pick up the pattern on my website. It's creativecutz.com. The address is right there on your screen. And then just go to 99 Cent Store and click on the card category, and that's where you'll find it. Have fun crafting!